I left home at 18. I wanted to start a new life and I got another job, so I went to Boston in Lincolnshire. I was studying an open university degree while I was working. That's when my gambling went underground as far as my family was concerned. And I convinced them that I'd stopped. I don't think they believed me at the time, but they didn't recognise me as an addict, and well, obviously neither did I. You're going to love this bit though. The job I got, I was working in an amusement arcade, a bingo hall and a cafe. I was there for 4 years. And even though I watched people throwing their wage packets on the floor in sheer desperation and fury, the customers were gambling hundreds of pounds with a jackpot of only 3. Well, I wasn't gambling anywhere near that much, so I couldn't have been an addict, could I? So why was it after 2 days my weekly packet was empty? But yet again, I thought I'd get clever. If the customers lost, then the machine must be ready to pay, and sometimes it did, and I was a winner. Then I'd go to the pub, by now I was 19, and throw it all in the slot machines. Again, if I didn't know anybody in the bar, I would just hide in front of a fruit machine. See, at this time I was looking to socialise in the pubs, but really in hindsight I knew the pubs that had the slot machines, and if a pub didn't have one, well, I wouldn't go in there. So was I looking for conversation, or was I looking to gamble? I'm not sure, but I suppose if I really thought about it, as I know now, yeah, of course I was. So after 4 being broke years and a breakdown, I finally left that job at the arcade, and then I went to British Rail in Birmingham. I moved in with my brother, and I was able to visit the vibrant gay scene after work when I was on late shift. It was 1992 and the scene awaited, but so did every slot machine in that pub. I never met people, I just played machines and got annoyed, and people just started to avoid me while I was in a bit of a rage. I wasn't a violent person, just angry. I never realised why, but now I do. No one wants to spend their lives with a compulsive gambler. I moved to Lincoln for a while. I worked for the Lincolnshire Echo, and I lodged with this rather older, eccentric gay fella called Michael, I think. And I fell behind with the rent. I thought he'd be a lonely pushover. You know, he'd fall for my charm and my excuses. Oh, I was better looking about that. But he didn't. He didn't fall for it at all. I got booted out to the Midlands. I guess he saw right through me. But while I was in Lincoln, my father called me and asked me what I'd done with the electricity overpayment cheque refund. I had cashed the cheque to pay the telephone bill. I told him so, and it was the actual truth. But because of our gambling persuasions, he weren't going to believe me. No matter how I pleaded with him, he did not want to hear my story. It was the absolute truth, but he would not believe me. I'd never stole from anyone. Not in this way. In fact, I've never stolen from anyone since. Oh, I'd conned people, and I'd lied to people, but I hadn't taken anything. In the end, I had to falsely admit that I had the money from the cheque, but I hadn't. In order for him not to disown me, it took me 20 years to convince him, and yes, he finally believed me. Was it what I deserved? Well, not at the time, but really I can understand now how he must have been hurt. Even though I hadn't done it, he thought I was capable of doing such a thing. I was a gambler, and I couldn't be trusted. Well, that's how I felt. Well, that's how I felt. Then I did meet someone when I returned to British Rail in Birmingham who turned to be a gambler. He boasted that he earned a wad of money. We both worked for British Rail, but he claimed he was a senior manager. I don't know why he lied. But it's like any other gambler. Money is always going to be the top topic. We moved to this luxurious, as he said, 5-floor ex-council flat in West Bromwich. It was a dive. I should have guessed it was all lies. It was only then we decided to pop into an arcade in Birmingham. It delighted me when we were going in, but when the staff all knew him by first names terms, well, I was disappointed, and I was relieved at the same time. You see, I'd found someone who would understand the fun of gambling, and surely we could work together to keep it under control. What's the saying? Birds of a feather? The flat was repossessed and we went our separate ways, blaming each other over the years. I moved back in with my brother, cursing this bloke, blaming his gambling being much worse than mine. I almost convinced myself, of course, I was equally to blame. Finally, I got made redundant from British Rail and I had a bit of a payout. I went to Amsterdam. There was gambling arcades all over the city of Amsterdam. I was 26, and by the time I got back, I did a European tour. But by the time I got back, I was getting broke. I had no home, no job, and I was claiming social security. Became almost housebound with depression, well, feeling sorry for myself and blaming the world in reality. So I'd gone from 50p in 1977 to £3,000 so far. The slot jackpots had increased to £8 with a higher stake, and they were even more attractive. I know I've said this before, and some may say, I've watched people telling stories of people losing £40,000 in one night, so why am I telling this story about losing so little in comparison? Well, the answer is, if someone had 20 grand and they gambled 10 grand, that would mean they've still got half of their money left. Let's say I had £300 in my bank account and I gambled the whole lot. Then you may say, well, you know what, he's gambled £300, it's nothing like £10,000. But the difference is, the guy that gambled £10,000 still had half of his money. I had nothing because I gambled it all. Before I go on, I did get asked before why I decided to share my story. Why are you doing it? Well, I wasn't really sure, to be honest. But I wanted to let people know you don't have to be squandering thousands and thousands of pounds to be an addict or robbing somebody or taking someone's life savings, or even worse, you don't even have to be a thief. You just have to be a person that's spending more than you can afford and it's affecting your life. And then you have to look at your life and your finances and ask yourself, why have I got nothing? The questions that I could answer yes to was I neglecting people? Yes. Spending too much time in the arcades? Yes. Was gambling affecting my life? Well, I didn't think so, but yes, it was. Was it affecting my work and relationships? Well, yes, it was. Is gambling turning you into a person that you no longer like? Well, I thought it was great, but when I look back, well, the answer was yes. Ever lied or borrowed to gamble? Well, yeah. But you see, I denied it back then. I always needed to borrow money because I had gambled. And I have learned that this money would be paying the bills. And I did have the phrase, I'll never do it again. And I meant it when I was broke. Total delusion. Before my redundancy, while I was working in Birmingham, I'd always used to leave home about an hour early, and so I could use that time to pop into the arcade and have a quick go. And the jackpots had gone up to £10 now, all cash, so that was even more attractive. But it was never just a pop in. It was a phone call to say, I'm not coming in, I'm sick. And then I'd go back and spend the rest of the day in the arcade. The only luck I had then was I never lost my job. And there was a pawn shop just over the road, which had what gold I had until the inevitable day when I couldn't afford to get it out. But my brother, he found my pawn tickets and he went and got them out. And he kept the watch. He kept the watch and the ring. And he's still got them today. I'll never take them back off him. He bought them, hadn't he?